Ready? Episode number, I don't know, of Forging Better Humans podcast. And we're back. And it looks like we're getting a little bit more consistent, picking up some steam, which is cool. Because I share something in common with you guys. And that is I love to listen to the sound of my own voice. So you're tuning in to do the same, and that's cool. And I'm going to not let you down so we can both enjoy my voice together. So one of the things that I've been dealing with for the last, 14 years of business, running a facility like Iron Legion, is how different it is from most other fitness style facilities out there. You know, your general public, when you say gym or fitness center, they immediately think of like a Planet Fitness or Gold's or some cheap knockoff in their neighborhood that they could go to and just kind of get their workout in, hang out with their bros, get a little sweat session in and bounce. Doesn't take a lot of dedication, stuff like that. And that's kind of what most people, that's their understanding of, a fitness gym. And then there's a couple of others that have branched out and they've tried, the Orange Theories and the CrossFits and the things that are out there. And, they're pretty familiar with that type of shit too. But, we've never really stood in the trenches with any of those guys. We've kind of always been different. And that different is, when I say training facility, I'm trying to put a couple words together that the general public can also recognize. Most of us enjoy sports in some way, shape, or form, and that there's strength and conditioning programs out there that center around sports, and that's kind of a lot about what we do here. It's a coached environment. We do a lot of different things like that, but again, it makes it very general, and we're very niche. So, and I'll kind of explain it here in this little podcast. I'm going to try to get it done. It's like 20, 25 minutes. I try to keep all these in like a little drivable time format. I was sitting in my tree stand over the weekend thinking about parallels of cool stories to kind of relate what Iron Legion is. And the way I'm going to try to explain this more and more often during podcasts. So my son, if some of you have caught in a few of these podcast episodes, has become quite the wrestler. He is a varsity wrestler in his sophomore year, and this is the year where it's literally like it's taken off. He's doing very, very good. Now, he doesn't win every match, but he's winning a shit ton more matches this year than he ever has. And it's been a super impressive change in him. I see a lot of really good, he carries himself different. He's a lot more confident. He's got a really established leadership role, just great qualities that I see coming out of him that have been developed over the course of time with combat sports that he's been training. Now, Logan is 15 years old. And when we started him in jiu-jitsu back at like year 7, he was 7 or 8 years old. We took him to a jiu-jitsu studio and he fucking wanted nothing to do with it. He saw the kids out on the mat. The kids were all warming up, and I could not budge him off the sidelines. He would not go out there. He was looking at me like I was crazy. He literally cried through a fit. And if he ever hears this podcast, he's going to be pissed that I told this whole story. But it was a very hard moment for me as a dad because I knew that he was ready for something like that, or I needed him to become ready for something like that. And we'll get into that. But we decided, that particular place wasn't for him. The environment just didn't fit. And so we took a year off and we brought him back at about 9, 8 or a little later, 8 years old, 9 years old. He had another year under his belt. I did a lot of coercing and a lot of bribing to try to get him back into another local studio here. And we got him in there. The coach was a little bit more open, and I would not use the word welcoming. The guy was an asshole, but he was something that Logan really needed. He needed somebody to not put up with his crybaby shit and just get him out on the mats and get him working. So he helped kind of pull Logan out of his shell and get him on the mats. Now, it was still, guys, a struggle for years. 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, 11, 12, something like that. I mean, every year, every single session that I would take him to, he fucking hated it. He could not stand it. It was not going to be his thing. He would complain to his grandpa about it. He would call his now Aunt Maria and talk to my Aunt Maria about how much he hated it. He hated me. He hated everything about it. But I could see the kid had skills. he didn't like being on football teams. He doesn't like being on soccer teams. He doesn't like a lot of that kind of interaction with team stuff. But man, as an individual, he's just a natural fucking athlete. So even though he didn't really like the training pieces of itself, I started to understand why he didn't like it, because he wasn't good at it. And when he wasn't good at it, now he moves well. So I knew that he could, if he would just get through this mental barrier, at some point he was going to be good at it. He just needed guidance. He needed somebody to be there with him the whole time. That wasn't necessarily me, right? And it's finding a good coach to kind of set him up with, to kind of get him to go through these phases of life with the sport. What I noticed around 12, 13 years old, though, is we got a different coach here at Iron Legion that he gravitated towards a little bit. The guy took a little bit, put him under his wing, mentored him, started moving him into more like a mentorship, leadership position, had him help out with some of the kids' programs, things like that. And then Logan started leaning into jiu-jitsu more. He started to enjoy it a little bit more. He started to find wins when he started to win a little bit, and he started to understand that he was getting better and people were coming into the mats, and he had years of experience now, and he was actually starting to pin adults that were like 18, 19 years old, and he was starting to get good enough to beat them. And then he started rolling, in like 13, 14 years old. Now he's starting to actually beat 20, 30-year-old grown men with kids, that he just started to really like lean into it, right? And now, I flash forward up to here we were last weekend. We're at a very, very hard tournament here in Gainesville. And I watched that kid from starting early morning, going all the way through the day on Saturday. He had 6 or 7 matches that he had to do. And I believe he went 6-0. He went 6 wins. Now, he fought his ass off, but he had 6 wins at one of the hardest tournaments I've seen him compete in. And he went into he made it to finals, which was cool. I'm like overjoyed, right? Super pumped. So he's headed to finals. I got a great picture of him, where he's walking towards me, and he's match 6. He had gotten a bone bruise on his knee. So he ended up like slamming his knee into the mat pretty hard. So he had a bag of ice in his hand, but he was still walking. He was still fighting. He was still ready to go. And he's walking towards me. And I was like, "You ready, buddy? You ready for finals?" And he puts his head down and he lifts his ice bag up and he's like, "I'm ready. We're going." Right. And I'm like, it just hit me in a way where I'm like, it's been so many years of hard work that I've watched this kid just fight, cry, bleed, and just reject this sport. But now it has become who he is. It's really become the soul essence of who he is. It's something that he's leaned into, and he's always loving it. That's where his friend group is. That's where he's got coaches and trainers that he can emulate now, that I trust, that work with him every single day. He's got a great leadership group of people around him. And all of those things are super, super important. And it's developing him as an athlete. But at first, he didn't like it. So I take you down that journey to bring you to why and what we do here at Iron Legion. Had I of just decided that every time he threw a fucking fit and decided that, you know what, this isn't for you, and pulled him out and bounced him through every single fucking sport out there and drove myself crazy, and then eventually all that's going to do is all that was going to do was end up getting him frustrated and just burn up a bunch of my time, right? And he's probably going to end up on a soccer league somewhere, running up and down a fucking field doing something he hates anyway. We found a sport that as an individual he likes, and we wanted him to lean into it, and that's what he did. Sorry, we got an Amazon delivery at the same time. Threw my space off. My point being, I can't tell you how many adults come into this gym. They walk into this gym, they're here for a day or two, and it's fucking hard. And they're not good at it because it's different. You can't just walk into a training facility like this and expect to be a top level, top tier athlete right off the bat. But you don't have to be. That's not the point. It's not the point at all. And it's also not the point of the jiu-jitsu studio. You shouldn't be a top-end athlete right on your day one, right? We need to train and understand how to do new things. We have to get beat down. We have to get broken down and built back up, and it has to be over and over. I deal with adults that act just like Logan did for the first year or two that they're in here. They hate it. They like the training. They understand that they need it, but they do not like not being good at something. And the best ones embrace that. They embrace that they're not good at something. They lean into the fact that I'm not good at this. I want to be good at something, so I'm going to spend a lot of time here. And that's where coaches come in. The coaches will gravitate towards those guys the most. The ones who actually, they understand that they're not good at something. That coach will latch onto that guy right away if they feel like they know that that person wants to succeed. Right? They're okay to fail. They're okay to try new things. They're okay to try pretty much anything that it takes for them to get a little bit incrementally better over time. And that's where that coach sets those milestones, sets those goals, creates that encouragement, right? That's what we do with our athletes here. The ones that reject that, the ones that are just completely frustrated, by about week 6, you can see it. They've completely rejected the idea of a coach telling them how to do something or helping them along the way. It's something they're not familiar with. And it's very obvious in the way they carry themselves. They're probably 300x pounds overweight. They're probably hurt in a numerous amount of ways because they've just never had any proper lessons or proper training as to lifting form, technique, or any of these types of things in life. And then all of a sudden somebody's trying to explain to them how to do things and they just can't. They just blank it out because it's just too hard. Too hard becomes the wall and the mask that goes over their face and the plugs that go in their ears, and they can't see anything past the it's too hard face, right? That's the difference of a training facility. So when you're at a training facility, we want you to open up and be open to coaching. You're going to learn a lot here. At a jiu-jitsu studio, it is no different, right? You got a guy that comes into a jiu-jitsu studio and they completely reject all the training that the instructor's doing during the hour. That person is not going to get any better. As a matter of fact, they're just going to get frustrated or hurt in one way, shape, or form. It's no different here at Iron Legion. So I guess if I was going to equate our training facility to anything, it looks a lot more like a martial arts studio or a jiu-jitsu studio than it does a CrossFit gym or a Gold's gym, in the fact that we actually do care where you're going, what you're doing, and if it's slowing you down, backing you off, and putting you in correct positions and making sure that everything that you're doing has value, we're going to do that with you. We're also going to set goals with you. We're going to be with you every step of the way as we move through this, the same way I was with my son. Now, I wasn't the guy out on the mats teaching him how to do all of the work because I left that to professionals in jiu-jitsu that are very good at that type of stuff. As a man, I understand that my son needs to have more men around him that he can emulate. It can't just be me, right? Especially when they're teenagers. Any guy that has a son that's a teenager, they know that like you're probably not his best friend for a couple of years there. And it's great to find coaches out there that they can lean on, coaches that you can trust, so that as a nice big circle or a tribe of people, right, we can reach our kids and we can reach our own athletes here too. So that's the other cool part about Iron Legion is I have other coaches here as well. It's not just me coaching you or even your kids here on the mats or on the floor. Right? We have a staff of coaches that are working with you the entire time. So look at it that way. You know, I'm going to try to bring in some pretty good stories to kind of explain what Iron Legion's about here. And I'll just leave you with a quote. One of the quotes that we have hanging here. Here at Iron Legion, we freely embrace our competitive nature. For everything about humanity, we are competitive. We're born to fight. We're born to survive. There's everything about that is competition based, guys. So if we can create a competitive environment, we want to try to create that the best way that we can. And we want to embrace that, and we want to push you towards that direction. It does not mean that we're going to be going towards that direction chaotically. We're going to train you how to move properly, and then we're going to put you in competitive environments to keep that intensity level up, right? We enjoy seeking out a challenge, and we seek that challenge by not only challenging ourselves, but we also want to challenge others, right? Everybody in here challenges each other. We're always holding each other accountable. We're pushing each other a little bit harder, from the coaches to the members and the members to the members. The coach, we all hold each other accountable. We all challenge ourselves to push ourselves to get a little bit better every single day. We don't avoid conflict, and we're confident in ourselves in the fact that we will be fine if things do not go as planned. Why? Because we train it. We train to exhaustion. We train stress. We train under duress. We train in environments and time frames and things like that the average person would never be able to understand. The benefit of that, you've heard in so many podcasts before that, where I have top leaders, business owners, top end managers, high end family people that use our training to develop stress inoculation and to become better at everything that they do, because there's really nothing outside of these four walls that's going to impact you like this training can in here, right? When you get a good beat down in here a couple times a day, your confidence level goes through the roof. Walking around throughout your day and going to a stressful board meeting is really not that stressful after you've hit some of the workouts we do around here. So I hope that kind of, helps explain what we're all about here. Maybe I bounced around a little too much, but it'll get more refined as we go. Stick with me, guys. I think we have a couple guests coming here over the next couple weeks. So stay tuned like we had with Colin last week. We're also going to do a full podcast breakdown on our Warriors Call Ruck that we did. At some point, we're going to set that down, get a couple of the athletes in here and give you a taste of what that looked like. Lots of cool shit coming. And then 2026 is coming too. So let's all keep our heads up, stay focused, keep training in the gym. We still have plenty of 2025 left. 2 or 3 weeks left. We could really still make an impact. So let's keep digging, guys. Stay with it, and we'll catch you on the next one. Out. I don't know, a little rambly.